hollow pops, I heard the shrill screams of the two women cut through the trees. I peeked my head around the corner of the cabin. I didn't like what I saw. The two women hadn't made it to their car. Both lay on the dirt road. They'd been shot in the back. Neither of them moved. I turned to Samson. "They'll come back for us. They're going to take us out, here in the woods." He shook his head. "No, they're not. We're going to take them out. When we see them, we open up. No warnings, Alex. No prisoners. Do you understand what I'm saying?" I did. This was an all-or-nothing fight. It was war, not police work. And we were playing by the same rules they were. Chapter 95. It was awfully quiet all of a sudden. Almost as if nothing had happened, as if we were alone in the woods. I could hear the distant roar of the Jacks River and birds twittering in the trees. A squirrel scampered up the trunk of a hemlock. Otherwise, nothing moved. Nothing that I could see anyway. Eerie as hell. I was getting a really bad feeling. We were in a trap. They knew we would come here after them, didn't they? This was their turf, not ours. And Samson was right. This was war. We were in a combat zone behind enemy lines. A firefight was coming our way. Thomas Starkey was in charge of the enemy, and he was good at this. All three of them were pros. "I think one woman is moving a little," he said. "I'm going to go check on her, Alex." "We both go," I said, but Samson was already slipping away from the cover of the trees. "John?" I called, but he didn't look back. I watched him run forward in a low crouch. Samson was down close to the ground, moving fast. He was good at this. Combat. He'd been there too. He was about halfway to where the women lay when gunfire erupted from the woods to his right. I still couldn't see anybody, just wisps of gun smoke wafting up into tree branches. Samson was hit, and he went down hard. I could see his legs and lower torso just over a bramble. One leg twitched. Then nothing. Samson didn't move anymore. I had to get to him somehow. But how? I crawled on my stomach to another tree. I felt weightless and unreal. Completely unreal. There was more gunfire, pinging off rocks, thudding into nearby trees. I didn't think I was hit, but they'd come damn close. The fire was heavy. I could see wisps of smoke from the rifles rising to my right. I could also smell gunpowder in the air. It struck me that we weren't getting out of this one. I could see Samson where he lay. He wasn't moving, not even a twitch. I couldn't get to him. They had me pinned down. My last case. I had said that right from the start. "John!" I called. "John, can you hear me?" I waited a few seconds, then called out again. "John, move something! John? Please say something. Please move." Nothing came back to me, except another round of heavy fire from the woods. Chapter 96. I hadn't experienced anything like the explosive rage, but also the fear that I felt. This happened in combat, I realized, and considered the irony. Soldiers lost buddies in the war and went a little mad, or maybe a great deal mad. Is that what had happened in the Anlau Valley? There was a noisy buzzing inside my head, bright flashes of color in front of my eyes. Everything around me felt completely surreal. "John," I called again. "If you can hear me, move something. Move a leg. John!" "Don't die on me, not like this, not now." He didn't move, didn't respond. There was no sign that he was alive. He didn't shiver or twitch. Nothing at all. More rifle fire suddenly erupted from the woods, and I hugged the ground, digging my face into leaves and dirt. I tried to put Samson out of my mind. If I didn't, I would wind up dead. I had a terrible thought about John and Billy. Then I let it go. I had to. Otherwise, I'd die out here for sure. Trouble was, I didn't see how I was going to outmaneuver 3 Army Rangers in the woods, especially on terrain they were familiar with. These were experienced combat veterans. so they didn't risk closing in on me right away. They'd wait until dark. Not too long from now, maybe half an hour. Then I was going to die, wasn't I? I lay behind a big hemlock, and a lot of disconnected thoughts shunted through my head. I thought about my kids, how unprepared I was to die, and how I would never see them again. I'd had so many warnings, so many close calls, but here I was. I checked on Samson again. He still hadn't moved. I raised my head a couple of times, just for a second. I turkey-necked a look through the trees. There were no moving shadows in the woods. I knew they were there, though, waiting me out. 3 Army assassins, led by Colonel Thomas Starkey. They'd been here before. They were patient as death itself. They had killed a lot of people, in the Army and out of it. I thought of something Samson had said before he went to help the 2 women. When we see them, we open up. No warnings, Alex. No prisoners. Do you understand what I'm saying? I understood perfectly. Chapter 97. Patience. This was a waiting game, right? I understood that much about tonight. I even knew the military jargon for what I had to do next. EE. Evade and escape. I studied the rough terrain behind me and saw that I could slide down into a hollow that would give me some cover, and also allow me to move laterally, east or west. I could change my position without their knowing it. That would give me a small advantage, and I'd take anything I could get right now. I felt that I was a dead man. I didn't see any way out of this right now, so the hollow or gully looked awfully good to me. I thought about Starkey, Griffin, and Harris, how good they were, how badly I wanted to bring them down, Starkey in particular. He was the smart one, the leader, the cruelest of the 3. Then I thought of what Samson had said. No prisoners. Only they had to be thinking the same thing. I started to slide backward. I call it a slide, but I was almost burrowing into the wet leaves and soft ground. At least I made it down into the hollow without being shot. Catbrier was stuck all over my legs and chest. I wasn't sure, but I didn't think I could be seen from the woods. No one shot me in the head, anyway. Not so far. That was a good sign, right? A victory in itself. I crawled sideways in the hollow, slowly, with my face pressed deep into the cold dirt and leaves. I couldn't breathe very well. I kept moving until I was a good 15 or 20 yards from my original position. I didn't risk looking up, but I knew my angle to the woods and the house had changed significantly. Could they be watching me from somewhere close by? I didn't think so. But was I right? I listened. I didn't hear a twig break or brush being pushed aside, just the steady whistle of the wind. I pressed my ear to the ground, willing to try anything for an advantage. It didn't help. Then I waited some more. Patience. Things Samson had told me about the Army Rangers surfaced in my head. Odd facts. They had supposedly killed 55 VC for every Ranger in the war. That was the story, anyway. And they took care of their own. In the Vietnam War, only 1 Ranger was listed MIA. All the others were accounted for. Every single one. Maybe they had gone, fled from the woods. But I doubted it. Why would they leave me here alive? They wouldn't. Starkey wouldn't allow it. I felt guilty that I'd left Samson, but I wouldn't let myself dwell on it. I couldn't think about him. Not now. Later. If there was a later. When we see them, we open up. No warnings, Alex. Do you understand what I'm saying? I moved again, circling to the northeast, I figured. Were they moving on me, too? I stopped. New position. I waited there some more. Every minute seemed like 10. Then I saw something move. Jesus. What the hell? It was a bobcat, eating its own droppings. Maybe 20, 25 yards away. Unconcerned with me. In its own world. I heard someone coming, and he was very fucking close. How had he gotten so close without my hearing him before? Shit. He was right on top of me. Chapter 98. Had he heard me too? Did he know I was right there, a few feet away? I didn't dare breathe, or even blink my eyes. He moved again. Very slow, very careful. A professional soldier. No, a professional killer. It was a big difference. Or was there? I didn't move an inch. Patience. No prisoners. He was close. Almost to the hollow I was lying in. He was coming for me. He had to know my position. Which one of them was it? Starkey? Griffin? Harris? Whom I had avoided crashing into during a softball game? Was he going to kill me now? Or would I kill him? Somebody was going to die in less than a minute. Who could it be? Who was up there over my head? I shifted my body so I'd see him the instant he came over the edge. Was that what he would do? What were his instincts? He'd done this kind of tracking before. I hadn't. Not in the woods. And not in a war zone. He moved again, inches at a time. Where the hell was he going? He was just about on top of me. I watched the uneven ridge of the hollow and held my breath, tried not to blink. I felt the sweat streaming through my hair and down the back of my neck, down my back. An incredible cold sweat. The buzzing in my ears was back. Someone rolled over the edge. Brownlee Harris. His eyes widened when he saw me waiting there for him, my gun aimed at his face. I fired just one shot. Then there was a dark hole where his nose had been an instant before. Blood spurted from the center of his face. His M16 dropped from his hands. No warnings, I whispered as I took the rifle. Were the others close behind him? I waited for them, ready as I'd ever be for a shootout. Sergeant Warren Griffin, Colonel Thomas Starkey. The woods were eerie, silent again. I scuttled away under the cover of darkness. Chapter 99. A three-quarter moon was out, and that was both good and bad news. I was sure they would come for me now. It seemed logical. But was my logic the same as theirs? I was back close to my original position in the woods. I thought so, anyway. Then I was certain. My eyes teared involuntarily. I saw Samson, lying still, right where he'd been shot. I could see the body clearly in the moonlight. And I started to shake. What had happened was finally hitting me with its full force. I swiped at my eyes. A fist seemed to clench my heart and hold it tight, wouldn't let go. I could see the dead women lying in the dirt road. Flies were buzzing around the bodies. An owl hooted from a nearby tree. I shuddered. In the morning, perhaps a hawk or turkey vultures would come to feed on the bodies. I slipped on the night goggles I'd brought with me. I hoped they would give me an advantage. Maybe not. Probably not. Starkey and Griffin would have the best, too. They worked for a company that manufactured high-tech equipment, didn't they? I kept reminding myself that I'd taken out Brownlee Harris. It gave me some confidence. He'd looked utterly surprised to see me. Now he was dead, his arrogance gone, exploded in an instant by a bullet. But how could I surprise Starkey and Griffin? They must have heard the shot. Maybe they thought it came from Harris. No, they had to know he was dead. For a couple of minutes I considered a flat-out run. Maybe I could get to the road. I doubted it, though. More likely I'd be shot down trying. They were good at this, but Harris had been good too. He was experienced, and now he was lying dead in a ditch. I had his rifle in my hands. Patience. Wait on them. They have questions and doubts, too. I watched Samson's body for another few seconds, then I had to turn away. I couldn't think about him now. I mustn't, or I would die too. I never heard it coming. A sudden blast of deafening gunfire. One or both of them had gotten between me and the cabin. I spun in the direction of the shots. Then a voice pierced the darkness. Close behind me.
Put down the gun, Cross.